What's up, dudes and dudes? Here, and my name's Scyushi, and we are back in small Trove, and oh my god, we finally have an update for you guys with regards to the gear crafting, Crystal 5 gear, essentially, coming to consoles soon TM. We don't have a release date, but we do have a very good rough estimate that I'm going to share with you guys. You aren't going to be getting the Rising Tides. Just want you guys to know about that. And please don't be frustrated about that, because frankly speaking, I'm going to be honest with you guys, this update as a whole is uncooked. It's unbaked. It's not done yet. We feel, you know, us on PC, it feels like we got part one of like a 3-part update that is going to slowly make more sense as we get more updates. But for whatever reason, they just kind of shoehorned this in there, and it's just, yeah, it's not good. Like, Mystic Gear is basically impossible to get. This difficulty world is basically impossible to handle, and it just, anyways, count your lucky stars that you're going to be getting the Gearcrafter update, because this update is actually really, really good. One of Trove's best in a very long time. So I'm going to kind of run you guys through the entire process of the gear update and junk like that. But I wanted to say first and foremost, the update is more than likely going to hit you guys within 2 weeks. So either next week, and if not next week, the week after. The only reason that I'm kind of speculating about this is because the devs basically made a YouTube short on the Trove YouTube channel that said the Gearcrafters update is coming soon to consoles. Every time they've had it coming soon for an update, it usually means that it's going to release within a 2-week time frame. So it's a rough estimate. It does, you know, have a history of Trove updates on its back to merit the idea that the update is going to hit you guys in 2 weeks, within 2 weeks. And frankly speaking, mid-August just kind of makes sense, right? Now, hopefully you guys get it sooner rather than later. It would suck if they just say coming soon and yet the update is still like months away, but I don't think that's going to end up happening. So hopefully the update will roll out for all console versions, not just like a select few of them. But the reason why the update has been taking so long for you guys is because of all the duping. So you only have yourselves to blame. I'm half joking, but at the same time, they've just been on damage control, focusing on all of the duping and trying to get things under control. And I guess they finally just figured, screw it, and they're just going to give you guys the gear update, which kind of sucks because as far as I know, you guys are still dealing with duping. So how can you end up actually preparing for the update? Well, before we end up actually tackling, the gear crafting and all of that stuff, I want to mention that the update is going to end up including Crystal 5 gear for you guys, which is really, really expensive to end up upgrading. And the only things that you can prepare for the update is going to be nitro and forge fragments. So you're going to need 165,000 nitro. Yep. And 50.4 thousand forge fragments. That's for a full set of Crystal 5. Now, granted, you're not going to be able to just speed run Crystal 5 and then upgrade it right away, because there's also going to be a tempered block element resource that you can only get out of this new update. And that's going to be another new item that is going to be required to upgrade Crystal 5. So how do you end up getting that? Well, I'm not getting ahead of myself here. So let's first look at this NPC. I want to show you guys that this guy sells you Gearcrafter Vault keys. These are going to be important. They'll also sell you some block element. When you're first starting out with the update, you're probably going to want to buy these every day, just because block element is going to be one of the big things that you're going to be struggling with. And then later down the line, the Gearcrafter molds are going to be invaluable to end up getting the tempered block element, because essentially you're going to need to have a mold as well as various other resources in order to end up crafting gear, right? And by using the mold to craft this gear, essentially every time you end up crafting like a piece of gear, it's going to end up having a chance of giving you a tempered block element. However, the first thing you're going to want to try to do is rush all the way to maxing out this profession. This is going to be the method that you use to get not only better crystal gear, but essentially Crystal 5 gear. But I'm just saying, max out the profession as soon as possible, which again is going to require boatloads of block element. The only way that you can end up actually crafting Crystal 4 and Crystal 5 gear is by upgrading this stupid thing. But in my opinion, this is the only tree that you want to actually work on. And even then, it's not mandatory if you do want to work on these, because frankly speaking, these chances of these drops are astronomically bad. Like, oh, 2% chance drop for Gearcrafter Vaults to drop, 1% chance, 0.5% chance for the maximum level, by the way, because somebody's not good at math on the Trove team. So with all of that said, the big thing that's going to change with this update is going to be the Gearcrafter Vaults. These are going to end up being boxes that'll drop out of dungeons. And right now, I'm going to tell you guys, this hasn't been changed on the PC version of Trove. But there's going to be a chance of getting Gearcrafter Vaults from all the previous worlds up to U6, aka Forbidden Spires, because it's not called U6 on PC anymore. But essentially, U6 is going to be your favorite place to farm if you're trying to be as efficient as possible to max out the profession. Because not only are the dungeons always going to have a guaranteed drop, which as far as I know is unintentional, but the elite mobs, which there's a lot of in Forbidden Spires, by the way, it's just a biome that generates with a lot of them for some reason. The elite mobs will also drop Gearcrafter Vault boxes, right? And then if you actually end up going for the, the Vault box here, you'll end up essentially getting more. There's also an ally that you can get very rarely from those boxes that'll end up increasing the odds even more. But yeah, suffice to say, you're going to keep these boxes. Don't unbox them. You're not going to be able to enjoy this update until you've maxed out the profession, because in order to get gear out of these boxes, it's going to take into account your current class for the potential weapon drop, your current power rank on the class that you're using for the tier of the gear, and your gear crafting skill. So in order to end up getting like Crystal 4, for example, or, let's just go all the way and say Crystal 5. You're going to want to have this maxed out. You're going to want to be on a class that is 45,000 PR at least. And, be on the right class so that the right weapon drops. And essentially, that's going to give you a very, very rare chance of getting a Crystal 5 drop. Now, the problem is that there's no fragment system. Like, you can't get, say, for example, a bunch of Crystal 5 hats that you could loot, collect some of them to get a fragment to craft it into a Crystal 5 piece of gear that you want. No, that's not a thing. You just have to get extremely lucky and get all of the pieces of gear that you need, the face, the hat, and the weapon. Good luck is all I'll say, because it took me a really long time to get a Crystal 5 hat out of all of it. And on top of that, you better hope that there's going to end up being a second stat reroll event. We've got fast invasions right now, but second stat reroll event should be around the time the update goes out for you guys, because if you don't have a second stat reroll event, it means that the gear stat that you're going to have on the Crystal 5 could potentially be garbage. Now, on top of all of that, when you end up actually unboxing crystal gear, and I've heard that people have gotten Crystal 3 and Crystal 4 gear as low as 20k PR, still having the Gearcrafter maxed out and everything like that. And obviously the odds are astronomically bad, but I'm just saying that it's around like the 20k mark or something like that. But when you end up actually unboxing crystal gear, it's going to generate with 2 stars, so 2 levels in it, minimum. Sometimes 3 stars. So if you end up actually unboxing a Crystal 5 that has 3 stars, I mean, that's awesome because it saves you a ton of resources, right? And the reason why I'm pointing this out is because gear crafting, in the very unlikely chance that you manage to craft a Crystal 5 piece of gear, it's going to be at level 0, which means that you're going to need significantly more resources to get those first initial levels. So that's why the Gearcrafter Vault boxes are pretty much like the meta, if you want to call it, in terms of getting more gear, right? Now, the cool thing that is going to be a very pleasant side effect of this is you are potentially going to be getting so much crystal gear that you'll be loot collecting it like crazy. And thus you'll be getting a ton of crystalline cores, which means you can potentially get the Cosmic Dragon if you actually have the amount of Primordial Dragon eggs, right? So there's a lot that ends up changing with the game, and essentially, you know, aside from Crystal 4 and even Crystal 5 being like really, really difficult to obtain and difficult to level up, at least it feels in line with the rest of the game, and it kind of all makes sense. The only reason I'm getting at this is because with Mystic Gear, it's bad. Like, it's not, oh, that's kind of tough. No, it's bad. So thank your lucky stars you're not getting this update while it's still half-baked. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Smash like, sub for more, buy the merch you want to support the channel. And if you want to support the channel even more, you can end up clicking the video in the top right. That's what YouTube recommends, or the video on top of me, which is my most recent upload. I hope you guys are excited for the update. Again, it should be within a 2-week time frame, guaranteed August at the latest, but I would have to say that when they push it in social media, it usually means it's within 2 weeks, maybe even 1 week. So good for you guys.